Hey, deserving listeners, we have a special guest with us today, Isaiah from Therapy Today, the YouTube channel. Welcome to the YouTube channel and podcast, Isaiah.
Thank you so much.
You are a therapist, a counselor, correct?
Yes.
In Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah.
LPC.
You reached out to collab, and I was on your YouTube channel, and now you're on mine. And we're going to talk about hot takes that we both polled our listeners for hot takes about mental health. And so we're going to go over some of those today. But first, I just want to say I want to thank you for reaching out, because I like to at least get to know other psychology, counseling, content providers. Like a long time ago, I thought it would be good to create like a consortium or something, maybe even have like awards that we give out, kind of like the Academy Awards or for the film industry. But it's like, I feel like we should have like an award ceremony every year for psychology content providers, a chance for us to celebrate each other and that kind of thing.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. But that seems like a lot of work and I'm too lazy. But the spirit behind that was I just wanted to connect with other psychology counseling podcasters, partially just because it just feels better to do that. I'm, counselors, therapists, we're used to consulting and being in connection, frequently talking with other clinicians. It's a part of our tradition. It's a part of our ethics. It's a part of our work. But also, I want to send the message to the public that, to our viewers and listeners, that we're not at odds with each other, even if we don't necessarily say the same things. I think there can be times where I will have listeners or viewers of my channel that will say, I like Kirk better than so-and-so, and so-and-so is stupid and Kirk is good. And I'm assuming on the other channels, they're talking shit about me. and what I want to say is, depending on who we're talking about, for the vast majority of us content providers, we're not at odds. We're used to having a plurality of opinions and takes. It's, the old saying is that if you provide a case presentation to 10 clinicians, you're going to get 11 opinions. And it's okay. It's something that we experience all the time in consultation. And that's what enhances our work and our humility and our growth, is to, oh, that's not how I would see it. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's interesting, So that's another message that I want to put out there. But anyway, so thanks for coming on my YouTube channel, Isaiah.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the message that you're talking about, because I think people have their favorite therapy or mental health content creators, and that's totally fine. But we're not against each other. As we found out when we were doing my video, that apparently we share a pretty common audience, at least very common opinions. So I'd just love to be able to address that, be able to talk that over with another professional. And I think, to your point also, there is something built in, at least in the private practice world, where sometimes we don't get a chance to talk to other clinicians enough. So I'm really glad for the opportunity.
Plus Asian solidarity.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's go to the first hot take. Kinky people are kinky people are deranged and have mental health issues.
Oh, interesting.
Kinky people are deranged and have mental health issues. That's a hot take. What's your reaction to that, Isaiah?
Yeah. My reaction is that seems very counter to where trends have been going socially in terms of acceptance of, I guess, non-traditional sexual values. I would be curious for whoever submitted this, what they define as kinky and what they mean by deranged. So I think it would be hard for me to say, but generally I wouldn't automatically say, oh, somebody has a non-traditional sexual interest and immediately jump to there's something wrong with them.
Right. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this person has experienced an invasive kinky person.
Could be.
Or an invasive person, either in their personal life or online. And that's their sole experience with kink, because the true ethical kink community would never impose or non-consensually invade someone. In fact, in my experience in the sex positive kink world, they're very aware of boundaries and of not doing things that make other people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm just guessing that this person has experienced some personal problems, because in no way are kinky people deranged. Generally speaking, you can have kink or non-kinky people that are deranged and not deranged.
Yeah, I think it's not the split between kinky and non-kinky.
In my observation, everyone is kinky in some way. In terms of, if we define kink as not of the mainstream acceptable narrow vanilla sexual acts or preferences. Here's another take. Mental health, social media culture. Mental health, social media culture is bringing about a new generation of therapists who want to be therapists just because it's cool. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll say I did not get into therapy because it was cool. I did not even know that was a thing. Are we hipsters? Like we were in here before it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think there's, along with the growing lack of stigma around mental health, I think there's a better way of saying that, the growing acceptance and awareness around mental health, let's say, that therapy has become a more viable treatment option for people who struggle with certain mental health disorders or who are dealing with mental illness themselves. And I could see that either they see therapists as respected people, or that they've had a positive experience with a clinician of some kind. And that can be the, like, I want to give back, or this person was influential in my life, I want to be that for somebody else. I didn't know that we were cool, but I'll take it.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. I mean, I wouldn't go so far to just make this broad statement, but one thing you could potentially say is that when I decided to become a therapist in the 90s, it wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I talked with about my decision to become a therapist, first off, they were like, you're just like you're like a jock frat guy musician. Like, why do you think you'd be but aside from that, people were just like, oh, so like crazy people, that kind of thing. And whereas it's different now. So one thing you could potentially say, which I've never really thought about, is that people deciding to become a therapist in the 90s and before, you can kind of bank on the notion that they really wanted to be a therapist, and they weren't motivated by any, or, well, there was prestige. I'll say that. But there wasn't the kind of prestige or the kind of acceptance that you would see today. But you could even argue back then there was even more prestige than today, because now therapists are more humanized than they were when I was growing up. So I'm sort of talking myself out of it. But but in today's world, because our industry has done so much to destigmatize therapy, so you have a lot of people talking about it, which is great. And then you're going to potentially have people that normally wouldn't really want to be a therapist, but are trying to get acceptance or some kind of social media notoriety, and their heart really isn't into it, And I would say that would be pretty rare, because graduate school is a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, not only the amount of money you have to spend, like $80,000, $200,000, that kind of thing, but the blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, it is annoying, graduate school. Now, might you have someone who is half-hearted about it and is wanting to be cool, but then after a year of graduate school, they drop out? Yeah, that actually does happen, and I've seen it happen as a professor. But again, there's so many other off ramps for people that are just doing it to be cool. So I would say that if someone's in graduate school, it's a calling, that it's usually the way it feels. It just feels like something that they just feel compelled, and they want to make the world a better place. Now, but I will say that I have experienced more students, it's rare,
Mm-hmm.
who seemingly present in this way and then prove to be this way post graduation, where they're really not interested in being a clinician and they want to do the other kinds of things that the profession can
Oh,
provide.
okay.
One of which is to be like a public speaker or a content provider,
Hmm.
And that's always been a thing,
Yeah.
like you would have people that would shy away from being a clinician and become a professor
Yeah.
or a presenter or a researcher or something. And now you have content provider, which there are various different kinds, some of which are on the up and up and ethical like you and me, and some of them are not.
Hmm.
And so might you have some people that are wanting to be a clinician, wanting to get the credentials so that they can spread their nonsense on TikTok. I suppose that might be the case, but I don't know of a specific case of that. But when you
Yeah.
think about the hundreds of thousands of people that
Sure.
enter the
Yeah.
field, are there going to be some unscrupulous ones? Yeah, sure.
I just figured that's a lot of work to be able to do that.
Right. There are many, many lay people that claim that they understand things, like life coaches and stuff.
Mm.
So that is a low bar to entry. Okay, so here's another hot take. Limerence. Have you heard of people talking about limerence?
No.
Okay,
Do I need
that's
to
so
look this up real
interesting.
quick?
Oh, no. So okay, so let me just tell you, I
Okay.
am so happy because I started hearing about limerence about 10 years ago
Okay.
and increasing over time. And I would get a lot of questions about it. You got to do, and I'm working on a deep dive about this concept.
Okay.
It's not a clinical concept. It's something that's only in the online universe. But
Okay.
this hot take is the one that I kind of used to have, but I no longer have it.
Oh.
And since you're a guest on the podcast, I'll just briefly talk
Sure.
about it, and I'll just say to the listeners, wait for my deep dive that's coming out soon. But the hot take, so the way that the online limerence community talks about limerence is that it's a very intense falling in love with someone, even someone that you don't know very well, or someone that you used to be married to or used to date or something. And it's unrequited. So you are obsessive about this person. And from the outside, on the surface, it's like, well, you're just in love, or you're just infatuated, or you have a crush.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Have you never heard of, half of the songs are love songs, for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why are you inventing this? Because the way they use it is sort of a clinical term or a disease that they're suffering, like a mental illness kind of label.
Okay.
Yeah. So I used to have that. So the hot take is limerence is having a crush or maybe even an obsession. There's no need to invent. There's no need to invent a term for it. So, any thoughts on this so far? What I've presented to?
Well, let me ask this clarifying question: are they doing any acting on these feelings?
Some do. Yeah.
Okay.
Some stock. Yeah. Or at the
Okay.
very least, they will frequently check their Facebook. The target's Facebook page or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's actions that are taken.
Okay. That's interesting that you use the word target. I don't know how intentional that is. But when
Sometimes they will even use that term. You know what I mean?
Really?
And there's a wide variety. So there's stalkers, which is a minority, but they're in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people who just quietly suffer for an extended period of time and don't reach out or don't drive by their house. So it encapsulates people that share the experience of suffering with unrequited obsessive infatuation love. Yeah. But any thoughts on this hot take of, hey, it's just a crush or an obsession. It's just infatuation. Like, stop putting a label to it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So I was actually an English major, and so some of this comes into play where I think it's more so about language than the clinical stuff necessarily. And so I have a pretty dynamic view of language in the sense that, like, language is constantly evolving. If there's a new word being added, there's a reason for it. And now I'm finding this with some of my kids who are learning new words that I didn't teach them. So that, like, yes, language evolves. And so I would say, I would just be curious what the line is between what people would call a normal crush versus a limerence. And it sounds like there's an extremeness of the limerence that seems to make it fall into that category. And I also do wonder from a mental health perspective how much of these behaviors cause the feelings and thoughts to persist.
Hmm.
And so that would be my follow-up to anyone who, if they happen to come into my office and say, hey, I'm suffering from this.
Yeah.
I'd say, okay, how are we potentially perpetuating this? But it's interesting that you said that sometimes it comes upon people very suddenly and sometimes for no apparent cause.
Yeah. Yeah. You're smart to have the openness regarding language and having the perspective of if people are coming up with a term or a word because the available English language doesn't provide that, then there must be some reason if a bunch of people are seeking that. It's sort of like LOL,
Yeah.
When those sorts of things were first coming about, 20 years ago, everyone's making fun of it. It was the downfall of the English language. But we all know now, and linguists even back then would say, well, there's a reason, because there's no other way to communicate what that communicates. And
yes,
you can't say laugh out loud. I mean, you could, but that says something different, than just LOL. And there's various different meanings of LOL and context. And anyway, so, we're always adding terms and words, not just because of technology necessarily, but because of a need, and it just gives more available ways of understanding, communicating things. So I think you're spot on with that. But I'm going to not yammer about this because I'm going to tell people to just wait for my deep dive, because I have a shit ton to say about this whole thing. But anyway, let's take a break, and when we get back, let's have a shit ton to say about something else. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right, back from the break. Again, Isaiah from TherapyToday, right?
Yes.
That's your YouTube channel.
It is.
Quick aside, when did you start your YouTube channel?
Oh, man, it's probably been about 2 years, I would say. I'd have to check on that. But in that time, I actually started on a different channel. It was more sports and athletic related, and that never got off the ground. But it was a really cool thing for me to learn, because I never learned any of this video, audio editing stuff, never learned like a lot of public speaking. And so this was a way for me to develop some of those skills that I never thought I would actually need in any capacity. But it's just been something that's really exciting and cool to learn for me. And it's just a privilege for me to have viewers who want to hear what I have to say.
What sort of sports did you follow?
So I did some kind of current events in sports. So when a lot of the transgender athletes in sports debate was raging, some of the CTE discussions for the NFL specifically, and all of these kind of different topics. And then I would document some of my own athletic pursuits. Like I was on a semi-pro basketball team, and I was trying out for that and documenting that process. So that was what I did previously.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of us Asians are point guards. Were you a point guard?
Yeah, I ended up being a shooting guard because we had some pretty talented point guards.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Semi-pro, like what team were you? What market were you in? Like in Virginia, or for like?
Yeah, in Virginia.
Okay.
So we were originally part of the ABA, and then I think there was something about whether the team was feeling supported by the league, and just like how much they were paying versus how much they were bringing in, and so they decided to go independent. And so basically, the team is defunct now because we don't have enough market to sustain a semi-pro basketball team. Like, that's not a big basketball area, so. I had a season of being able to do that, and that was a pretty cool experience.
Do you want to go into the trans sports take? Because you mentioned it. I'm curious what you were talking about.
Yeah, so I actually got to talk with a gender studies professor at a local university here. And so I think people will gather from my videos, typically I don't try to have a lot of opinions, especially when I'm interviewing somebody. I try to give them space to kind of build their platform and talk about kind of what their thoughts are and what their reasons for those thoughts are. And so I still have difficulty with the topic. One of those things being that I don't think I know any trans athletes. I would love to get their personal story. And I don't know any athletes who have been on a team with a trans athlete, and I would love to hear their side of things as well.
You don't personally know any.
Right. Yeah, I know of. I don't
Yeah.
know it. Yeah. So, and it's also just such a fraught topic for people to talk about publicly that the people who are most willing to speak out tend to be some of the more extreme ones. And I think that's true on both sides. And so that's why I emphasize the importance of kind of those personal relationships and conversations before I would really have much opinion one way or the other.
Okay. Interesting. And then with CT and football, as a football player myself, who had multiple concussions, both as a football player and just as a kid, like on a slip and slide as a kid. What was your content regarding that? Did you have a position on that topic?
Yeah, I think that, man, so this was like 4 years ago now. So I'm trying to remember what I found out during recording that video. So it's a hard topic because I think the NFL is the biggest league in America right now in terms of money and market. And I do enjoy watching the NFL. So that's hard for me also personally, but I do recognize the very real risks that these athletes are being asked to put their bodies through.
Yeah.
And I say asked, and people say like, oh, they don't have to play, but it's like, there's a huge incentive to play too.
Yeah. What sort of content are you providing on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so the content that I provide is most frequently designed for people to have a better understanding of what they should expect from counseling or from their mental health professional, primarily with counseling, because I can't speak as much to other professions. But I just had a lot of clients who came in, and this was for basic stuff. We would put together a treatment plan and they'd say, oh, I'd never had a treatment plan before. And in my mind, I was thinking, first, oh no. And then second, you probably did, but your therapist didn't talk about it with you, or some combination of the above. And I don't say that to disparage other therapists. I think it's just very easy for people, because this is a very confidential process by its nature, that we're not talking about what it should actually look like. So people ask, are you getting counseling? Yes. Okay. That's probably enough then. But we don't talk about the quality of counseling. And so just having a basic understanding of what people should expect from their mental health professional, what rights and privileges do they have as a client or a patient? Those are all important things to talk about. And so that's the primary thing that I want viewers to walk away from my channel having, is that knowledge of how do I advocate for myself? What do I know is within my rights as somebody who's seeking mental health services?
That's great. Yeah, I'm passionate about that too. And I will disparage therapists that don't do these things. So I'm glad that you're doing that. And it is a problem. And there's probably other therapists that are watching your channel saying, oh, yeah, because supervision and education isn't universally quality. Anyway, so here's another hot take. A good friend is better than a therapist. They already know all your problems before you share the newest thing. What do you think about that?
100% agree. With all of my clients, especially the ones who are maybe locating to this area for the first time, or move for work, or just are lonely, I will always tell them, look, you come to me, I'm willing to listen to you. I love listening to you. I love that privilege of being able to serve you in that way. I am not with you for the rest of your life, or I shouldn't be. There is no world in which I should be. And what you're getting from me is that social support, somebody to be able to listen to you without judging, to be able to know you and care for you. And I want you to be looking for somebody who can be that for you, not because you paid them. And I know that's kind of reducing the clinical relationship to something pretty utilitarian, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. And so that doesn't diminish that I do try to care for my clients, but also that they need somebody who's with them for that. And yeah, to that point also, yeah, if you have a really good friend, they're going to know what the problem is even before you say the specifics of what the particular issue is this week, because they know your patterns, they know how you think, they know your blind spots as well. And to find a friend who's willing to see those and also point those out in a loving way is so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what we mean by friend. And it depends on why you're seeing a therapist. But yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. If you can have a friend who is there for you and knows you and loves you and it's a mutual relationship and is available all the time, for the most part, that's superior to a therapist in terms of attachment and a
Yeah.
lifelong, meaningful relationship. Having said that, therapy isn't just providing support or friendship.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
there are many things in which a friend would be horrible for that a therapist would be much more suited for.
Yes.
All right, let's take a break and we get back one more. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right, we're back from the break. So Isaiah from Therapy Today YouTube channel, tell me your reaction to this. Being an empath, quote unquote empath, is just emotional hypervigilance from childhood trauma. Being an empath is just emotional hypervigilance from childhood trauma. Isaiah, what do you think?
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. I haven't seen studies, and I don't know if there are ways to study this apparently very intuitive thing that is very difficult to measure except by self-report. But that being said, I've had a lot of clients who claim to be empaths, and I think that's telling, first of all, that a significant portion of my client population claim this. And then also we combine the fact that a significant portion, according to research, of people in counseling have suffered trauma of some kind. So let's say there's correlation there, not necessarily saying there's causation, but that to one thing that you were saying earlier, for a lot of people, this empathic impulse where they say they are able to feel other people's feelings very deeply and very viscerally is generally not something that they are a huge fan of, at least the people that I've talked to, because it makes things very difficult for them in relationships. It makes them very, to the wording of the hot take, hypersensitive to the ways that they imagine people are responding. And I say imagine not in the sense that it's fake necessarily, but just that like sometimes they have no other evidence to back that up except that they feel this way. And so they may be accurate and they may not be. And so what I try to encourage my clients who say that they experience this is, okay, let's talk about reasoning through this. If you think that this person is angry with you or mad at you, but they haven't given any sign, this is a very difficult way to proceed in relationship. And I think you'd be better suited to talk about this from your marriage and family therapy background. And just from an individual perspective, it's very hard because they're almost holding entire conversations in their head because they perceive this feeling and then they're making a whole narrative out of it without actually talking to the person in question who they are getting these vibes from. So I don't even remember what the original hot take was, but I'll say that I don't know whether or not this is a real thing. Oh, whether it's like hypersensitivity due to trauma. Wow, I totally took that in a different direction.
No. I think your answer was awesome. Actually, it was a very wise, thoughtful answer from experience. So I thought it was perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll say my short answer is I don't know what to do with that a lot of the time.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to add. I guess I'll just reiterate that. For some people who claim they're an empath, they seemingly, from my perspective, and I can never tell if someone online says they're an empath, but if I know them professionally or personally, I would say at least half the time I'm suspicious that they are distorting what other people are feeling and thinking, and they're concluding that they can read people's minds and thoughts when they don't seem actually very good at it at all. But then there's another group of people that I think are absorbing or really sensitive to other people's actual emotions. And it's because of the traumas that they went through, which we could imagine what that could be like. But I also, the only thing I'll really add to what you were saying is that for some people saying they're an empath, or I'll see this on Reddit sometimes where like there was this kid recently who was really caring towards his parents or something. And the label of the video was like, when you know your child is an empath or something. And I was thinking, no, the kid is normal. The kid's a human being. That's normal. It's normal to care. It's normal to love. It's normal to have compassion. It's normal to have empathy. By implication, he's abnormal, but it's really the lack of empathy that is abnormal, whether it's due to pathology or toxic masculinity or just a general American downplaying of emotion and quote unquote weakness or something. So, and I was encouraged by a fair amount of commenters on Reddit actually saying exactly that. So sometimes I feel like people are labeling people as empaths because it feels like there's such a lack of empathy. There's such a lack of care, a lack of noticing or reacting to other people's emotions in a lonely, distant, avoidant, attached world or something. And so they're like, oh, wow. Or they themselves feel that way. And they're just like, what's wrong with me? And when you go online, there's this whole community that will label you as an empath, when in reality, you're just a good, normal person that's free to feel and absorb and to care and notice maybe in a social circle that it doesn't do that.
Right.
Or doesn't
I
encourage
think what I would add on to your point is that even if you do label yourself an empath and believe yourself to be as such, I think it's really important that we don't forgo listening. That even if we have our own intuition of what I think the situation is, that doesn't mean I can be blind or deaf to what someone's actually telling me that their intent or their feeling is. And I think that's where a lot of the clients that I've worked with who claim that will have a blind spot about that.
Yeah. I don't think this is most people who claim they're an empath, but I knew someone personally who claimed they were an empath, and she was frequently assuming how I was feeling, and it was always negative, and it was never true. Like she would just be like, "Oh, wow, I can really sense, because I'm an empath, that you're like really strung out and tired right now," and I'd be like, "Huh?" And like, how do you respond to that? Like at work, you're
thank you. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's just like, do I look like shit? But it'd be so caught off guard, and I would think, from the immediacy of just like, oh yeah, maybe, and then I'd think a little later, like, no, I'm not any tired or any more energetic than normal. That was a complete distortion on their like, and what is it about them that they would see that, and why would they even assume that? Why are they saying that? Like, what's the message there, and what kind of what anxiety was being expressed through their assumption about what I was going through? You know what I mean? Or what sort of aggression were they actually trying to? I don't know. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like empathy. So now I'm not saying everyone who labels themselves an empath about it. Yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, now that we've pissed off everyone who labels themselves, thanks for coming on the YouTube channel and the podcast, Isaiah. It was great connecting, and I'll say I'm impressed with your intelligence and wisdom about these things and your care regarding how to respond.
Thank you.
Sometimes I don't exhibit that care, so it's good that's rubbing off on me to some extent. So, and it's good to connect with you, Isaiah. Good to learn a bit about your life, being a shooting guard, a 3-point master.
Oh, that comes and goes.
And I like your mission for your channel and stuff.
Thank you. It's a privilege being on here, and I got to learn a good bit too. So thank you so much for spending the time.
Well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, take care of yourself. Isaiah, why should people take care of themselves?
Because it matters, and not just for yourself, but also for the people that love you and that you love also. It's got some downstream benefits.